Well now, isn't that interesting? Korean devs report a burst of interest in single-player console and PC games following the release of such titles as Stellar Blade. South Korean game developers have traditionally focused on releasing free-to-play online titles on PC and mobile devices. But after a surprise slate of single-player successes, devs say that trend may be shifting. Ooh. Wouldn't that be nice? Wouldn't that be genuinely rather awesome? Solid single-player experiences. Boy, that does sound like a foreign concept in 2024, doesn't it? Though, there are a couple of pitfalls here. See, one of the primary reasons why single-player games sort of started dying wasn't because there wasn't a market for it, or because people were suddenly like, oh, we just hate single-player games, we don't want to play them anymore. No, it's because it wasn't an infinite money well. See, one of the problems with the gaming market growing as large as it did was that it was in large parts defined by a handful of enormous successes, like World of Warcraft, for example. And a lot of developers looked at that and thought, wait, you can print money indefinitely? Forever? Millions upon millions? Holy shit, we've got to get in on this. And this started a bit of a massive trend of, well, things like microtransactions, DLC, season passes, etc, 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 as the market attempted to maximize monetization of individual products. And the best way to maximize that monetization is via things like cosmetics, or things that everybody needs to get, like the old school map packs for Call of Duty, for example, where if you wanted to play with your friends that had this map, you need to buy that map and so on. It is to maximize the amount of content that you need to purchase for you to feel as if you are receiving a full experience. And single-player games that are designed to be played through and then put away, of course, does not fulfill that anywhere near as well as an infinite game, like an MMO or a multiplayer competitive shooter or stuff like that, things that are online, right? And since that became the golden goose, and only a mere handful actually got a hold of the goose, see, that's the thing. Everybody was chasing it, everybody was chasing after the golden goose who laid the golden eggs, or was the other way around, I don't even remember now, but very few of them actually caught the damn bird, as only a very small percentage actually managed to create that infinite money loop, whereas the rest, well, largely fail, frankly, even as the single-player games lay forgotten and abandoned. See, there is a very good way to return to this. See, because many games don't have to be infinite. If you have a decent campaign, FromSoft have done this lovely, of course, but what do game developers need to reacquaint themselves with, because the cost of game development has risen and they need further income sources, is a long-lost term. 2 words. Expansion pack. Because, you see, making a single-player game doesn't mean that you don't support it. It doesn't mean that you don't add content to it. It simply means that the content isn't the entirety of the product. It means that you've got a solid core first that you then build upon. And back in the day, this was the norm. If a game was a success, it was expected to get a expansion pack. And these expansion packs were usually pretty hefty affairs, like Yuri's Revenge for Red Alert Command & Conquer 2. It contained an entire new campaign and an entire new faction with entirely new and different mechanics. Or probably the single best expansion pack ever made, Medieval 2 Total War Kingdoms, which added 4 new campaigns on 4 new maps. It was enormous, it was awesome, and it is yet to be topped to this day. And if that isn't enough milkage for you, if you've gotten used to the idea of season passes and 15 pieces of D&C being pushed out yearly, well, I introduce you to The Sims. Now, Just like we talked about with the Golden Goose, very few games can be The Sims. But you can absolutely do this. If you have an ambitious enough base game, and your player base understands that maintaining that level of ambition and detail and complexity requires continuous support, they will more than happily support it. Paradox is an absolutely amazing example of that. Paradox milks their player base dry, and often with either facile, unimportant, or pointless DLC. Hell, some of the times it even outright breaks the game, like with Europa Universalis 4, which has become a tottering mountain of half-functioning DLC. But it proves that the player base is more than happy to accept a continuous level of DLC support in the form of what is in essence expansion packs, but worded differently for the current year, so long as you've got a solid enough product at the base. Gamers are remarkably forgiving creatures, a little bit too forgiving on occasion, and so long as you can give them a solid baseline product, they will stick around to support you. Absolutely. Not to mention, there are so few truly narrative-driven games these days, particularly within things like goddamn strategy games. Strategy games used to be the story games back in the day. They used to have massive campaigns, tons of cutscenes, cool characters, etc. If a game came back and did that today, it would almost certainly do well. Hell, even just a basic campaign, and try to keep the politicking to a minimum. Company of Heroes 2 made this mistake, where all they needed to do was add in a basic campaign, and yet they went, people really want to play as the Africa Corps. What if we make the Africa Corps campaign from the perspective of a random native? Woman, of course. Well, I suppose that's one way of doing it. Not a very good way, but it's certainly our way. The Command & Conquer style franchise, for example, you could absolutely do games like that. You could absolutely do storylines like that today. I mean, hell, with the advent of stuff like, what's the term again? Generated content. You know, when the game makes a level for you. I've forgotten the term for it. You could absolutely start working that into strategy games to create different challenges or different mission objectives, not in the mainstream campaign, but things like Dawn of War 2 had an interesting little mini-game mode where you played as a singular character fighting against waves of enemy forces with a hero character. You could do that. Warcraft, goddamn Warcraft 3, and all of its mod tools shows just how many different game modes you could potentially put within a strategy game. Strategy games are surprisingly flexible and really do need a little bit of a revival. Even though, and oh god, Sins of a Solar Empire 2, which I did a stream on just yesterday, excellent game by the way, highly recommended, is going to be a fantastic example of that. The first Sins game was supported well beyond its, by all reasonable expectations, death knell, particularly considering its problematic performance, by mods. When that game starts getting Star Wars mods and 40k mods and Star Trek mods and Halo mods, it is going to expand the game far, far beyond its original premises and roots, and is going to allow the developer to continue to release product for the game for a very, very long time. You can still absolutely engage in the monetization practices of the current day. You've just got to give the carrot first. We have grown so accustomed to the stick, it may as well be our friend and brother at this point. All we ask is that the carrot is at the very least present as well. I mean, hell, people started buying horse armor, for God's sake. And, you know, if you really want to score some point, you'll even have a decent DLC strategy with some added free stuff. You know, Helldivers, for all the shit I give that game for actively ruining itself, has a system where you can earn a large amount of the unlocks as well. Okay, excellent. Stick and carrot. Carrot and stick. The two together work so much better than merely just stick. See, the stick is for the corporations, because at the end of the day, I can exist without Blizzard. Blizzard cannot exist without me, and so on. The stick should be used with great care against the customer, and with great intent and vigor against the company. Which is yet another reason why they should probably give the solid product first and the DLC strategy later. But I'm not going to be too hopeful just yet. We're going to need to see a hell of a lot more successes than merely Stellar Blade, though Black Myth Wukong does look like it's shaping up pretty damn well. That, as far as I know, is a pure single-player experience too. Before we are going to be seeing a resurgence of single-player gaming, but man, wouldn't it be beautiful to have a strategy game with a campaign again. Oh, I miss the hammy days of Command and Conquer. I really do. Maybe we will be so lucky as to still be alive when it rolls around. A man can hope. Until next time, I've been Arch. Thank you all very much for watching, and do let me know if you too would like to see more single-player oriented games as well down in the comment section below. And until next time, have a good day.